The hospital smelled like bleach, fear, and prayers that never quite reached heaven. Under harsh fluorescent lights, a single father named Daniel gripped the edge of his daughter's bed so hard his fingers turned white. Little Emma, barely 6 years old, lay motionless, her skin thin, almost transparent, like she was fading out of the world. Machines beeped slowly beside her, too quietly, too steady, as though counting down her remaining hours. The doctors had stopped promising miracles days ago. They spoke to him gently now, with soft eyes and lowered voices, as though Emma had already become a memory. But Daniel refused to leave, refused to blink too long, afraid that if he closed his eyes, she would disappear while he slept. If love could cure, she would have been running and laughing again. If money could buy life, maybe she would have had a chance. But Daniel had none of it. He worked as a delivery driver. He sold everything he owned. He begged. He worked double shifts. He borrowed until no one answered his calls. And now, with hours left and no options, he stood in this sterile room watching the person he loved most slip away, powerless. He whispered apologies to her motionless little body. Apologies for being a poor father. Apologies for being a man who tried but never had enough. He wished he could take her place. He wished someone, anyone, could save her. Just then, the door opened, and a shadow stretched across the room. A tall man in a dark suit stood there, cold, composed, as if storms existed only for other people. Daniel recognized him instantly, Aiden Cross, Billionaire CEO, the owner of the largest tech corporation in the country, a man whose signature alone could change markets, save industries, or destroy them. Aiden stared at Emma, at her fragile breathing, as though he was studying something delicate but broken. Daniel didn't know why he was here, didn't know how to ask, didn't even know how to hope anymore. But he didn't need to ask. Aiden Cross simply looked at the dying child, then at the shattered father, and said only one sentence that would change everything. "I can save her. If you believe kindness and second chances can change lives, don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Your support helps us bring more stories that touch the heart." Emma was transferred immediately. Paperwork vanished. Signatures appeared without hands touching them. Rare donors were suddenly available. Experimental surgery approved overnight. Aiden Cross paid for the best surgeons in the world to fly in, shutting down part of the hospital to prepare. Daniel didn't understand how things were happening so quickly, but he watched his daughter being taken into a surgery that only hours earlier had been impossible. His knees gave out, and he had to hold onto a chair to stay upright. Hope, a feeling that had abandoned him days ago, flickered again like a small flame struggling to survive. The surgery was long, longer than any night he had lived through. He prayed, he paced, he cried alone in a hallway full of strangers. He whispered promises he didn't know how to keep, promises of a future with laughter, promises that she would see summer again. Time moved like a slow bleeding wound. Nurses passed by, machines rolled down the hall, the world continued on uncaringly. But then, a surgeon emerged, exhausted, blood on his gloves, and nodded. Emma lived. When Daniel entered the recovery room and saw his daughter breathe, strong and steady, with color returning to her cheeks, the dam in his chest broke. He laid his forehead near her little hand and sobbed, not from grief but from overwhelming gratitude. Because she was here, she was alive, and someone with unimaginable power, had saved her when no one else could. Over the next week, Aiden Cross visited occasionally. He never smiled, he never looked emotional. He simply observed Emma, asked brief questions, and left. Daniel tried several times to thank him with words, but nothing felt big enough, nothing meaningful enough. So he just stood and bowed his head every time Aiden entered the room, and every time Aiden gave him a look that Daniel couldn't read. Something between calculation and detachment, something like a man staring at a decision he wasn't finished making. When Emma recovered fully, Daniel was handed documents. More medical care, future treatments, therapy, all paid for, and school tuition at an elite academy funded by Aiden Cross. It felt like a miracle dressed in paperwork, but miracles are never free. After Emma's final checkup, Aiden summoned Daniel to his corporate headquarters, a building of steel and glass that seemed to cut into the sky. The man who saved Emma sat behind a massive desk, fingers steepled, eyes unreadable, and then he spoke of his Part 2 plan. Emma, he explained, had been saved not only because she was a child deserving life, but because she had something Aiden needed. She possessed an incredibly rare genetic marker, one that could be used for a revolutionary medical technology his corporation was developing. A technology that could extend human life, perhaps even cure diseases that currently ruled the world. Aiden wanted Emma to be monitored, studied, tested, not harmed, he insisted, not put in danger, but observed. He offered Daniel a job at the company, an expensive apartment, a life of financial security. In exchange, Emma's medical data would belong to them. There was no threat made, no cold whisper of consequences, only an offer wrapped in logic, opportunity, and debt, the debt of a life saved. Daniel signed. He told himself it was harmless. He convinced himself it was gratitude. Emma grew stronger, healthier, attended the elite academy, and smiled again. The world felt lighter for a while, but as months passed, Daniel noticed more tests, more scans, more visits to labs that didn't feel like hospitals but like research facilities. And the people running them didn't speak to Emma like a child. They spoke as though she was data, an asset, a project. Aiden Cross watched everything from afar, always calm, always observant. Daniel's gratitude slowly turned into a quiet, cold unease. One night, Emma came home with bruises near her arm. She didn't know how she got them. She said the nurses kept taking her blood because she's special. Daniel stared at the faint marks and felt a panic deeper than the fear of losing her to illness. He realized something terrifying. She wasn't dying anymore, but she wasn't free. He went to Aiden's office immediately, no appointment, no waiting. He slammed his hands on the desk, tears, anger, desperation pouring out. He demanded that everything stop. He didn't care about money, jobs, anything. He would go back to being poor. He just wanted Emma to be a child, not a test subject. His voice broke as he shouted that saving her life shouldn't mean owning it. Aiden listened silently, expression still unreadable. Then something shifted in his eyes. Not anger, not coldness, but something that looked painfully familiar. Loss. Aiden quietly revealed his truth. His own daughter had died at age 6, a rare illness no doctor could cure. Money couldn't save her. Science failed her. He had built that massive medical division out of grief, desperation, and obsession. He had devoted years to researching genetic anomalies like Emma's. When he saw Emma in the hospital that night, he saw his daughter. And when he saved her, he wasn't being generous. He was fighting a battle he had lost years ago. Emma was living where his daughter had died, and he was clinging to Emma's survival like a man trying to resurrect the past, using her as a key to a cure he never found in time. In his grief, he hadn't realized he was hurting a child he meant to protect. Aiden's voice shook, not much, but enough. He stepped away from his desk, walked to the window, and with a trembling breath, told Daniel he would release all rights. Emma would be free, no research ownership, no more tests. And the medical expenses would still be covered. She deserved life, not a contract. Daniel left with tears pouring down his face, not from fear anymore, but from understanding. Aiden Cross wasn't a villain. He was a father who couldn't save his own child and tried to rewrite fate through someone else's. Emma lived. Aiden lived with a wound that never healed. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe to support our channel. Let kindness and humanity spread through stories that matter. Stories that matter. Tell us in the comments, would you choose debt or risk losing everything to protect the ones you love? We want to hear your thoughts. Stay kind, stay inspired. Stay kind, stay kind.